right, everybody, and welcome back to Knockout Bets podcast brought to you by Recliner Sports Report. Thank you all for tuning in. Today we are talking UFC 273 Volkanovski versus the Korean Zombie over in the Veterans Memorial Arena in Jayville, Jacksonville, Florida, the Sunshine State. Let's go. Gonna be an absolute war between these two gentlemen. I'm excited. Andrew, how we doing today, buddy?
Doing great. Gotta love coming back from a week off from the UFC to a pay-per-view card with two exciting title fights. Kamzat's on there. The whole card top to bottom is exciting. This is a good one.
Oh yeah, super excited. It's fun to see the Korean Zombie back. He's always entertaining to watch. There's definitely can't wait to start talking about him, but Chimaev, I'm definitely excited to see the animal that is Kamzat. And then the boa constrictor. Could this be his last ride? We don't know.
Yep. And they're putting all kinds of names on here. I mean, Mickey Gall's a name, Mackenzie Dern's a name. There's a lot of names on the card.
Yeah, it's definitely shaping up to be a great card, and it'll be perfect way to begin the night after a good day of Masters watching on the weekend. It'll be nice to have a full day of sports on Saturday. We got the good Masters all morning and afternoon, and then you got fights on at night. I'm gearing up.
I don't think we can plug our pool, right? Because it's by the time people see this, it's going to be too late to get in.
It's going to be over. But for those of you who are in it, best of luck to you these next days. For those of you who did not make it, keep an eye out for our next one. DraftKings got some cool things. Again, this is social media, so we're trying to be social with you. And what's more social than some weekly fantasy contests. This one was a little bit bigger buy-in, $20, but it's because it's the Masters. But future events, we could look to be doing like dollar buy-ins. We don't know. Dollar fantasy weeks. There's all types of sports that have fantasy things.
That's just bragging rights to that point. Yeah. Let's do 5 or 10.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like
I get what you're saying.
This is something for us. It's new for us. We're just trying to bring our love of sports and competitiveness to everyone. You know what I'm saying? So super excited. But, yeah, keep an eye out for more of our DraftKings contests. All right, well, let's jump right into this thing. Again, a big 13-fight card even has early prelims. So that's how you know it's a big card when it doesn't have just prelims. So our first fighters, this guy's nickname gets me.
Willie Cat. Yeah, I don't even have to guess which of the two fighters you're talking about here.
So we have Julio Arce coming in 17-5. Versus Daniel Willie Cat Santos.
Did you find anywhere where that nickname comes from? I could barely find tape on the guy that wasn't from like 2016, so let alone finding where his nickname comes from.
Dude, I have pictures and stills of this guy that I could find, and like actually I did put Daniel Santos, like trying to find some film, and he came up as like a 70s or 90s boxer, Daniel Santos.
Okay.
Not
there is, though, I found he has, I mean, it's a highlight reel, so take it with a grain of salt, but he has a sick highlight reel on YouTube.
Yeah, he had some I saw that. It was definitely, it was the only thing that I could really get a good judge, but yeah, he's coming off, he has an impressive 10-1 record. But he was over from the Brave Combat Federation, so this will be his UFC debut. But to be noted, he does have, of his 10 wins, 7 finishes. So I always hate these type of fights because you got someone who you know very little about. You got a tight line, but you got someone like Julio Arce. So go ahead, Andrew, talk to me. What's your first kind of thoughts on this one?
Yeah, so Julio Arce, we've seen in the UFC for a good long while. I didn't put this in my notes, but I believe if I'm remembering correctly off the top of my head, he's 4-3 in the UFC, so kind of up and down. His last fight, he got knocked out by Sang Yadong, but Sang Yadong we
Nasty head
know
kick.
is
Nasty head kick. It could have happened to anyone.
right, and Sang Yadong is on his way towards the top of the division. It's not a bad loss by any means, losing to Sang Yadong.
That's a highlight
So
reel kick. Again, it could have happened. Like that's the UFC in a nutshell.
all you can do is duck it or try to block it. And if you don't, you go night night. Um, so Arce, pretty well rounded. He has good kickboxing, good general boxing. He's also a BJJ black belt. He gets in a lot of brawls in his fights, and he has solid wrestling. He's a finisher too. You mentioned that Santos finishes guys. Arce finishes guys both by knocking him out and submitting him. He's got 5 of each on his record. You like to if you're just looking at a record, you like to see that. It means finishing guys both ways. Santos, like you mentioned, first fight in the UFC. Also important to note, it's his first fight since 2019. So even if you just put that in the perspective of the last time he fought was like 4 or 5 months before the pandemic was a thing. So we haven't seen him in any kind of MMA bout um, anytime recently. From what I have been able to find, the little bit, he has pretty good striking, really solid overhand right that he throws a lot of spinning, crazy attacks, and he even has, looking on the record too, he has 3 finishes, I think, by one spinning technique or another. There's one where he had a kick to the liver that was like a spinning back kick. He has a spinning back fist, I think, knockout on his record. Um, Definitely somebody who's bringing the flair for sure when he steps into the octagon. Where I'm at from a betting perspective on this one is haven't put anything in yet and probably going to ride with Julio Arce. And it's just for one simple reason. Santos is coming to do his first fight ever in the UFC after a 2.5 year layoff. And so you can choose to look at that of one of two ways. You can look at it as he's still only 27 years old. Maybe he was just taking some time to work on his game, and he's going to come back out even a whole lot better than he is in all those wins that we can't even find to watch on tape. Um, or it's just a long layoff and there's going to be ring rust. And to combine that with a first fight in the UFC, and Julio Arce is not a typical first fight in the UFC opponent. They're not giving him somebody easy for his first fight. And so for those reasons, I am very likely going to end up with a bet on Arce.
I think this is a very hard fight card to pick on this one. I mean, even you go statistics looking, right? Like you got nothing to go off of here. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't, like, again, you have very little film. You have very, like, only thing we're going off of is you're looking at a record. Um, I think the only thing that you can look at
Yeah, I mean, I
that
found a fight of his from 2016 on YouTube, but that's 6 years ago. You
yeah,
can't
you
really
can't
take
really
anything
tell.
from
The
that.
only thing I think is of noting in the statistics matchup is you got Arce's got 93% takedown defense. I think that's very high. So that's good to note that he can do that, especially with someone who has 2 submissions in his 10 wins. So you know that you're assuming that he's got some sort of ground game. My pick's gonna be for Santos just because the nickname. There's nothing really else besides that. I I I probably will not bet this fight. I
Yeah,
yeah
I mean,
I
I can see Santos hitting him with one of those spinny things that you see him throw on the highlight tape.
Yeah.
You know, he's
This
clearly done it before. It's possible to do it again.
Yeah, this one I'm just gonna go off on, and I'm gonna pick the Willie Cat because I have to have a pick. But I'm not. Again, yeah, it doesn't even have a picture.
Yeah. Well, what
Like
are you gonna do?
who is this guy with the nickname Willie Cat? That's a that's a scary
We're
dude to me.
we're
But
gonna find out on Saturday.
yeah, I guess we're gonna find out Saturday. So count me in for the Willie Cat. I think it'll be interesting, at least for sure, and exciting to see what happens with that one. Um, need no matter what though, it's going to be a good fight. So that's going to bring us to our next fight, our women's strawweight fight, where we have Piera La Fiera Rodriguez versus Miss Kay Hansen. The La Fiera is making her debut after coming off a Dana White Contender Series win, and Kay Hansen 7-5, coming off back-to-back losses, won by Corey McKenna by unanimous decision. So
Jazz Davicius was the other. They're
yep.
not bad losses.
No, they're actually super tough opponents. So and it's you look at a record like that, 7-5. You're like, what's going on there? But again, you're in a tough division there. That women's strawweight's a tough division, and she's fought two good fighters, so that makes sense.
And her win over Jinyu Fry, that's a solid win.
Oh yeah, 100%. So talk to me, Andrew. What are your thoughts on this one?
So having said all that, I already have bet and tweeted the bet that I'm betting on Piera Rodriguez. But let's talk about it a little bit. So Hansen, we've talked about, she's had 3 fights in the UFC already. She's had 12 professional fights. She's still only 22 years old. She was, I'm not sure if she was 19 still, or she might have been 20 by the time she made her UFC debut. But she came in young. There are not a lot of people that are coming into the UFC at that age. There's Song Yadong, there's Chase Hooper was about the same age, and I can't even think of a third example. I'm sure there are several that are just not coming to me off the top of my head, but
Yeah.
there are several, but there are not all that many at the same time, if that makes any sense. It sounds like a contradictory statement, but it makes sense to me. So yeah, 22 years old, 2-loss losing streak, like we talked about. Her game is she wants to get you on the ground and submit you. She likes to use her striking to get into the clinch, to grapple, to work for the takedown, to work for the submission. Her striking definitely is not the greatest of all time. She wings her shots quite a bit, and she's definitely very hittable on the feet. Her striking defense is not the greatest of all time either. Rodriguez throws really good combinations. She has a strong boxing background. She has a lot of power in her hands. She really sits down on a lot of her shots. And her style in the cage is interesting too, because she's a small fighter, but she's not bouncy like most small fighters are. She really kind of plods around the cage, almost similar to like a light heavyweight or a heavyweight fighter. She's fairly heavy on her feet, which even being that way has pretty good movement. She's solid in the clinch, which I think is the absolute key to this fight for her. She's got to stay off her back, and staying off her back being the key. I think she will do that. I think she has a very clear advantage on the feet. And I think that's how she's going to win this fight.
So you bring up some good points, and
I mean, she has her own takedowns, but I don't see her trying to take Kay Hansen down unless it's last 30
I
seconds of a
think
round.
you're right. Everyone's going to say the key to Kay Hansen's victory is to get it to the ground, but I'm actually going the opposite way on this one. I watched something in her last fight against Jazz Remus,
Jazz Devicius.
Jazz
It's not an
Devicius,
easy name.
Jazz Devicius,
I think
Jazz.
that's how you. Yeah,
Um,
Jasmine.
she kept going in for takedowns and couldn't get them, but actually, I thought she was striking better than Jazz, and I think that she wasted a lot of energy and time uh, trying to get into those what she knows, which is wrestling, and then it didn't end up working out for her. And then I started saying, okay, well, what's the numbers then on this, right? Because you look at that, you're like, all right, well, she actually was striking pretty well, but she kept giving it up to go in what she does well, which is take to the ground. She actually has a pretty, no, I'd say pretty big, less than one, but um, still in comparison, we're looking at 2.87 strikes per minute for Rodriguez, and we're looking at 3.35 for Kay Hansen. So she's putting out technically a little bit more volume. Then you look at the significant strikes landed, and she lands at a higher percentage at 53% than Rodriguez at 35. And you're like, okay, that's, we're talking about a wrestler here though, and you're like, all right, that's a little bit weird. And then you look at Rodriguez, and she actually averaging more takedowns per round, which is shocking because Kay Hansen's the wrestler here. And then you're looking at the takedown
She
defense.
definitely has the takedowns in her back pocket, but I
Yeah,
don't think she's trying to go there with the game plan in this
no.
one.
And then you look at the takedown defense, and there's an anomaly with Rodriguez. There's no data to show there. But you look at Canton, she's got 50%. All right. So now I look at that, and I look at someone like, all right, their main advantage is supposed to be grappling. I'm telling you right now, what I watched in film was Kay Hansen that is actually a decent striker, a lot better, more than she's getting credit for. I think Kay needs to keep this thing on the feet. And I know that sounds freaking crazy to say that, but I do think that
Oh,
if I know, which is
to
that's
get beat up
super,
on the feet.
that's and see, I don't think so. I think she actually can outstrike Rodriguez. I think she can't do the same thing she did against Jazz. I don't think that's. I don't think it worked out for her. She got herself into again. It just yeah, it just didn't look good. But then when you look over at Rodriguez, I think she also her best chance is to outstrike and keep this thing on the feet. This one's a tough one for me. I think Lafayette, I think she's great. This is her UFC debut. Dana White knows how to make people's debuts. He usually, when puts them in debuts, he wants them to do well. So I think this is a true test for both fighters to show like, hey, Kay, you're 7-5. Like, what's the deal here? Like, you need to start
Three
going the other.
losses in a row.
Yep, you need to go in the other
Maybe you're back
direction.
to Invicta or
Yep.
something.
And then Pierre Rodriguez, we're going to put you against someone who is good. So this will be a good test, good welcome to the UFC yourself. And I'm actually going mad heavy lock on Kay Hansen. I'm really, I saw something in that last fight where I just think I think she lost the fight herself. I don't think she got beat. I think she lost it herself. So I'm going heavy on Kay, and I'm also really liking the over on this fight too. That's another one I'm really liking. So
What's the line for the over?
haven't seen the actual like
Let me
odds
take a
yet
look.
for it. I don't even know if
'Cause,
it's
yeah, you got to think this one probably goes the distance.
1.5. I would say is probably gonna be where the
Oh,
line is
it's,
gonna be set.
I would think 2.5, but let me see.
Yep. So they're doing 2.5 minus 230 for the over. So I'm not the
Yeah,
I'm not the only one who thinks it's going to happen.
right.
And I'm just telling you, looking at their fights.
Yeah,
Like what it is.
so one of the things I wanted to bring up, I don't know why they're wherever you pulled that from doesn't have the data on her takedown defense, but the fight she had against Svetlana Gotzik in LFA, which was her fight right before the Contender Series, Gotzik was trying to take her down over and over and over, and she showed really good takedown defense in that fight to the point where Gotzik was trying to like pull guard because Gotzik's a submission artist. So she was trying to pull guard to get her to the ground um, because she wasn't able to get the takedowns.
Right. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I think she's a great fighter. I don't know. I just saw something on that film that last fight. I'm
Yeah,
slamming. Like
well,
I
it's
said,
fun
I'm
when we go
slamming.
head to
Yeah.
head,
Right.
and especially when it's one where like the line is really close, so it's
Yep.
not like somebody's taking a shot on a plus 250 underdog and
No, this is
the other one's on the minus 300. It's fun when it's close like this, and we're going head to head.
this line is
I
right where it
mean,
should be at. I mean, it's spot on.
so
You know.
looking at what I'm seeing right now is Pierre Rodriguez around like minus 120, minus 125, and Kay Hansen around plus 100 or so.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
got
it's close to a pick 'em.
my early. I was trying to remember now I'm trying to look it up what my early line was for Kay, what I got her on. I think it was like plus 115. So again, that was
Yeah,
an early
you got
Sunday
like the
morning.
plus money there. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
and
have
it's
I have
yeah,
Rodriguez at minus 116.
yeah. So yeah, and that was like I said, early Sunday when I made that pick. So it's definitely she's been bet. And again, I know she's been a favorite for a couple, especially the people we follow on Twitter, and a couple of the guys that we interact with have been saying it too. So I'm sure she's been bet down quite a bit. I do think it is right. I do think La Fiera should be the favorite on this one. I do think
Oh yeah, if the
she's had an
line
exciting, yeah,
flips and I can get plus money on Rodriguez, I'm throwing a second bet on it.
100%. All right. So yeah, that's Mike Hansen, and you're going with La Fiera, huh?
Yes, sir.
All right, I like it. I like it. All right, next up, I love the nicknames these on this whole card. Next up, we have Mr. Fluffy Anthony Hernandez, who's 8-2 and one no contest, going against Josh Fremd, who is also making his debut in the UFC. Has a professional record of 9-2 with 7 finishes, 4 by knockout and 3 by submission. I I tell you what, watching Anthony Hernandez last fight where he was at plus 370 underdog and he got taken to that deep water. I mean,
And then he
you listen
subbed
you listen
Vieira.
to Joe Rogan on that whole call, and Joe is the whole time saying, "Oh man, and I love, mind you, I love Joe Rogan. I love everything about Joe Rogan. I love when he's commenting on a game. He really did start saying like, "Oh, this is over for Hernandez," and somehow he pulled himself
Well,
out of that fight and
it's not
put on a
really
show.
somehow. To me, it's a competition of, in my memory, who gassed harder, Vieira in that fight, or like
Vieira gasped.
Faria Gapova against Shanna Dobson.
Yeah, no,
Like,
Vieira gassed himself, but he had Hernandez in some dark places, and Hernandez gritted that out and won. So again, it was an awesome fight to watch on that. So gonna be interesting between these two. But Andrew, tell me what are your thoughts on this one?
yeah. So this one, off the bat, I'll say from a betting perspective, is probably going to be a stay away for me. I'm just not feeling a great read either way. So Hernandez, the highlight that stands out to me for Hernandez, other than of course his last fight against Vieira, is his Contender Series fight against the Beverly Hills Ninja Jordan Wright, where he flatlined him. And that was I mean, I have a whole thing where I know Jordan Wright's won a couple fights in the UFC, but I will bet against him against anybody who's halfway decent because I don't think he's that good. And that was the beginning of that was getting KO'd by Anthony Hernandez because, well, Anthony Hernandez has KO power, is a decent striker. Really, his strength is the grappling. He's a BJJ black belt. We talked about he submitted to Vieira. He has really good submissions, and that's his favorite path to winning any fight. Fremd, like you said, UFC debut. Important to note on this one, he's coming into this on less than 2 weeks' notice. So this is a short notice fight for him. He's one of these tall guys. He's 6'4", but tall guys who's hittable. And there's another one who I'll talk about later on in the card because I think it's an even bigger problem for the one coming later. But um, tall guys kind of lean out of the way of shots instead of having good head movement, and instead of having good, why am I blanking on the word? Just hands up in front of the face for defense. Fremd is super technical in his striking. He mixes kicks in well, and he's not a terrible wrestler. I'm leaning towards Fremd as the dog shot pick here. I think that's going to be my pick for picking purposes. Whether I get to putting a bet on that, I'm not so sure. This is one where I've done a little bit of homework, but I really need to go back and dig deeper before I decide whether I'm going to put the bet in or not.
I will admit, this one is tough to bet because I know who I want to win and I know who I think's going to win. I just can't do it at the odds that I'm getting it at minus 200, which is hilarious because his last fight he was a plus 370 underdog. And I would have slammed that easily on a plus 370 underdog, but I'm having a tough time saying minus 200. I don't know how I don't bet that straight up. So I think we were kind of talking about this earlier before the show, when we're looking at angles on how to bet like by a finish. So I'm rocking. I don't know the odds yet because I haven't been able to see any on it, but by submission, I think Hernandez by submission is my bet.
That's a solid bet. It's around plus 175, plus 190. So for those who haven't heard me say this on previous podcasts, I'm pulling the odds from Best Fight Odds. They're not a sponsor or anything. They're just a really good, helpful resource. And they'll show you the odds on. They show, I think, all the books that I have, and some more beyond that. I think they've got about 10 different books that they show the odds for.
But yeah, I'm shout out to them for sure. But yeah, I think I'm going. Or I know I'm going to go Anthony Hernandez by submission. That's my pick on this. My pick is for Anthony. My pick is for submission.
I don't hate it.
And again, I really.
You're gonna bet him by submission. Seems like the way to go.
I really liked what he did in that last fight, and I just tell you, man, that was like inspirational. It was awesome to watch. And that showed me a lot of grit and a lot of toughness, and that earned me throwing money on you, my friend. You proved it, showing that you're a tough person. So yeah, I'm going with Fluffy, man.
So I'm leaning Fremd because I think he stays on the feet, and I think he has the advantage on the feet. But that's just a pick. There's not a lot of confidence behind it at this point.
Oh man. All right. So that was Anthony Hernandez versus Josh Fremd in that middleweight bout. Next up we have, and now I think this is the right order. What I'm seeing coming up next, and if we're wrong here, whatever, figure it out. But I'm pretty sure match 10, because they switch these things all the time. And like, who was on Gastelum and then got?
Yeah, I don't know if Gaslam dropped out or Drix Duplessis. There's been
What
a whole
happened there?
lot of
That's what I'm saying.
Moving around.
So what I got is, because again, you can't keep up with the UFC, and the ESPN can't keep up with themselves either. So I got it. Next up, heavyweight bout versus.
Tapology is a good resource. They're usually pretty quick with it.
Also good. I got Alexei Olenek versus Jared Vandera in a heavyweight matchup. The Bowen Constrictor is it's just even saying these numbers 59, 16, and 1. But
Can
uh,
we get the man a 60th win before
let's do it.
it's
Um,
done with this?
and then Jared Vandera, 12 and 7. Um, just a just an all around just mayhem maker. His fights are just they're just brutal. And he's coming off a loss to Andre Arlovsky. This is definitely have epic proportions written all over this. This definitely has finish written all over this. Don't know who, don't know how, don't know where. The pick'em line right now that I'm getting is completely accurate. But tell me, Andrew, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, so this is one of the ones that I did. I always like to, right before we hop on, do like the last 5 or 10 minutes of research on certain fights. And this is one that I looked into. And even in that very short amount of time, after having spent probably an hour on it earlier in the week, it got me to a side. So Olenek, you mentioned his record. He has like 3.2 billion fights. He's 44 years old. Uh, he's got about one round of gas left. And I mean, credit to him that he's even in the UFC at 44. Most of the guys that are fighting at this age are on what I like to call the Bellator Senior Tour. We trademark that one, probably not because Bellator's trademarked, but um, to still be in the UFC at this age is impressive. And he is on a 3-fight losing streak, but he did have a good solid run before that. Um, we know him, we love him. We know he comes to submit you, to Ezekiel choke you, to grab an arm, to do whatever he can. I think if you're going to bet Olenek, why bet the money line? Like the chances that I mean, yeah, could he lay on him for enough of round one and do it again enough in round two to survive round three and win a decision? I guess anything is possible. Um, but to me, if you're going to bet Olenek either by sub or bet Olenek inside the distance, because I guess there's a chance that you get a dominant position and finish by ground and pound on the ground. Um, while I talk all about the subs, he does have like sneaky good striking. Like there are a couple of wrestlers that we're going to talk about and jiu-jitsu artists that we're going to talk about later on the card that really do not have good striking, even though they're elite level fighters in the UFC. Olenek is not as terrible as everybody makes it out to be. It's decent. Um, Vandera is taking this fight on short notice. Olenek was supposed to be fighting Alir Latifi, which was a fight I was excited for, even if nobody else was. Um, Vandera is huge, lumbering type of guy. So when we get to the weigh-ins with these guys, this is one that I already anticipate. Like we don't even have to wait to the weigh-ins and see what does it look like. Vandera is going to be a whole lot bigger. He's probably going to be 30 to 35 pounds heavier than Olenek on the scales. And come fight day, he's probably going to be 40 pounds heavier than him. He likes to wrestle. That's his main game, even though he does have power and especially his right hand. He's got good cardio. He does, though, for a wrestler, end up on the bottom a lot, which is what worries me about him. Because if you end up on the bottom with Alexei Olenek, while Alexei Olenek hasn't gassed out yet, you're in a whole world of trouble. Um, so I am going to take Vandera for two reasons, because I think that they're going to look like they should be in two different weight classes come fight time. And also, I think Vandera's got enough to survive round one, and his cardio is going to take over as the fight goes on, and either he's going to piece him up for 2 rounds in 2 and 3 and win a decision, or going to get him out of there.
I'm going This fight is ending one of two ways: a first-round submission by the boa constrictor, or a knockout win by Jared Vandera. Um, Vandera has
I
some.
like it.
He has some power, not speed. He sits and loads and waits, and he can get you when he wants. I think the weight advantage is definitely going to play a big factor in that KO power. I think it'll even play a factor if he sometimes gets into a scramble with Alexi and can get on top. Alexi is known to sometimes lay on his back as well and try to submit off there. It's very hard when you have a man so much bigger than you in the heavyweight division get on top. That person is usually showing a little bit more dominance because it's just heavy. It's just hard to get another human being that large off of you. And Alexi, when he gets tired, he also then goes to his back. Um, I think the bet, like you said, it's you're either going not to go the distance, or not to go to the distance. And I think another thing you might want to try to sprinkle in there as a bet by itself is just Alexei Olenek by submission. Um, I'm rooting for the guy to get number 60. I hope he
Oh,
wins.
I want him to win too.
I'm actually picking him, and I'm actually going to be betting him. Definitely just small, probably like a half a unit on just his money line. But I think the real bet, again,
So
I
here's a question for you. I popped this up. So the under 2.5 rounds is like minus 270. That's not even really bettable at that point. But there are some books that have the over under set at 1.5 rounds, and it's right around a pick 'em. There's minus 118 and minus 112, with slight favorite to being under 1.5.
Alexi has one more round in him. He's not making it past 2 minutes and 30 seconds in the second round. I think.
So you think under 1.5 is a good bet?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be a little more hesitant on 1.5. I think he can survive longer than halfway through the second.
It's also going to have a lot to do with how much volume Jared throws. Um, but I'm just telling you,
Good
man,
point.
the longer this fight goes, the worse it's going to look for the boa constrictor. Um,
Yeah.
so
Oh, I hope he
um,
subs him in a minute and a half just as a fan.
that would be super
But
cool. So yeah, that's my pick though, boa constrictor, baby. Um, I I love watching him fight. I love every time he steps onto the octagon. You know it's going to be a brawl. Um, so I'm excited to watch him. I don't know about you, but I can't
oh,
wait
absolutely.
to see what he's going to be doing. All right. So that was our heavyweight matchup: Alexei Olenek versus Mr. Vandera. Now, next fight here. This one I have. Um,
Mickey Gall.
That's okay. I was about to say, is that that's where I'm at now? That's where I see is Mickey Gall.
Yep.
Is that what you got? All right, cool. All right, so that means our next fight is going to be a I'm losing it here. All right, it is going to be a welterweight matchup versus Mickey Gall and Mike Malott. Mike Malott. Malott.
I think
Um,
so.
um, very exciting matchup. I think this is a good fight. I think the styles, I think the way these two brawl, I think this was good matchmaking on the UFC's part. Talk to me. What's your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, so I mentioned it off the top. Like there are some names on this card, and Mickey Gall is one of them. Not necessarily because of what he's accomplished in the UFC, but because he was really smart in self-promoting himself, and on Dana White's Contender Series called for the fight with CM Punk, got that one, won it. Called for Sage Northcutt, got that one, won it, and got himself off to a hot start there. Since then, he's been in some money fights, like he's fought Diego Sanchez, he's fought some names on his record, and he's won some and he's lost some, and proven to be a guy that can hang. I mean, you don't see, I can't remember ever in the last like decade somebody 1-0 coming into the UFC. I mean, even like somebody like Alex Pereira, who's maybe the best kickboxer in the world, had like 4 fights or at least 3 before he came into the UFC. So coming in 1-0 is an interesting place to start for Mickey Gall. He also, just for some reason, this has nothing to do with breaking down his fight or whatever, something about like his physicality and his attitude just reminds me of Rocky. Like, he just looks like Sylvester Stallone in those movies. Something about his body or his face or something. I don't know. Mickey Gall makes me think about Rocky. He's a very strong grappler. That's definitely his biggest strength. But he also has gas tank cardio problems. His boxing has definitely gotten better and better over time, but it's not the strongest of all time either. And it seems like if you look at his record, he beats the guys that he's really supposed to beat. A lot of guys that aren't the highest level in the UFC or aren't even in the UFC anymore. And then when he gets that step up to somebody that's either is a contender or has been a contender or is on their way to being a contender, those are the fights he seems to lose. Mallet, don't know a whole lot about him and haven't been able to find a ton of tape on him. And even the tape I did find, he finishes his fights really quickly. He's got super fast hands. He's a coach at Team Alpha Male with Uriah Faber. Hasn't fought a lot over time. Like, he took like 2 or 3 years off at one point and came back and had one fight and then fought on the Contender Series, and now here he is in the UFC. So this is one where we've seen like 2 fights to go off of in the last 5 years, and granted, he's handled his business. He's done what he's supposed to do. Here he is in the UFC. This is gonna be a pass, this fight, for me from a betting perspective, because I just don't feel comfortable laying like minus 200 on Mallet without knowing enough about him, and I don't feel comfortable betting Mickey Gall, just not having confidence that he beats good UFC fighters, and we don't know whether Mallet is that or not. So betting wise, I'm passing.
This one's a tough one to pick. And again, you look at Mike here, 7-1 record. Again, UFC debut, but his 7 wins are all finishes. And they're quick. And how do you? And again, what does that mean in terms of level of competition? It's hard to tell, but that's just a dangerous stat number just to look at. You know what I'm saying? However, we got Mickey Gall, who's as tough as they come. The guy is an absolute soldier in there.
There's a reason he reminds me of Rocky, because Rocky like won some, lost some, but always went to war.
Now here's a weird fact I just want to bring up, and I just want to double check to make sure I have it right. Okay, this is a weird fact for Mickey Gall, and this is why I think I might have found a tip here in betting lines. Since 2016, Mickey Gall has went win, loss.
Yeah.
Win, loss.
Okay, I thought you were going somewhere else, but yeah.
Loss, win, and his most recent was a loss.
So he's due for a win, is it?
Since 2016, Andrew. This has been
it doesn't work that way, right?
This is a 6-year pattern. Did you not go over patterns in elementary school?
Oh
That
man.
is a WLWL pattern. Right now, statistics would say W should come next. So, so when you look at it like that and you big up this big brew of a storm that is, who is this dangerous newcomer who has nothing but finishes and one random loss, and you have Mickey Gall who just continually wins and loses.
Oh, I forgot, by the way, I'll correct myself. He did fight Mike Jackson before he fought CM
Yeah.
Punk, but yeah.
So I'm going, and again, you're also talking now, a lot of Mike's wins were submissions. He has 4 submissions. Mickey's got 7, so Mickey's no slouch on the
Mike
ground either.
Mallet has
Right.
4 submissions?
4
Wow.
submissions. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But Mickey's got 6, so he's no slouch on the ground. Again, level of competition here, right? So I think this is going to be a dangerous fight. I agree with you. I think if anything, I might throw like a cheeky unit on Mickey, depending on how everything's going. You know what I'm saying? Up into that point. If I'm hot, I might just throw some spare change. Any spare
Yeah, I
change?
mean, this is
But
the thing is like a debuting fighter coming in being minus 200 a lot of the time against a guy who's been in the UFC for a good long run, just in general, taking these particular fighters out of the equation, just in general, that's a good angle sometimes, is taking the guy that's been around, who's, I mean, I'm looking at Mickey Gall's line is around plus 165 right
yep,
now.
so I'm getting it too.
Um, it's not a bad angle.
It's definitely going to be a game time decision on if I place a bet on this fight. Um, yeah, I think you're talking about a dark horse, man, in Mike Mallet. You don't know what I mean, you know what he's capable of, but you don't know what he's capable of
Right. When
compared
we're
to
talking
somebody.
about Willie Cat, we're talking about kind of the same thing, I think, with
Yep,
Mallet. Like there's a little more tape on him because there's 2 fights, but he ended those 2 fights in like less than 2 minutes of fight time combined. So yes, those fights are there, but there's not a whole lot of tape that says, this is what happens in the second round.
not at all. So definitely, like I said, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be exciting. I don't know if it's going to be a brawl because it could be over in a minute. I know if the longer it goes, the more of a brawl it's going to become, and I think it's going to really test. I think what Dana's doing right here is Mickey is known to make fights dirty and just grind them out because he's tough. Mike is known to go in and finish a fight quickly. So I think Dana wants to see what are you going to do against a guy who can go into deep waters? Can you go with him? There's no more earning your contract, like come and make your debuts. Like welcome to the UFC. This is what they're all like. You know what I'm saying? So it's definitely gonna be fun. I'm excited to watch. I just need to see what happens. You know what I'm saying? I want Mickey to win because I'm a fan of Mickey Gall, but Mike Mallet over here, he's could be a good next up and coming UFC star, but we need to start seeing him fight UFC fighters. So until I can become a fan of him, you know what I'm saying? Not everyone can get my Patty the Batty approval just like that. Headlining, I want him to be in a stadium on his 3rd UFC fight.
Well, the thing is, he promotes himself well enough. He
Yeah,
should
right.
be.
All right. So that was a welterweight matchup, Mickey Gall versus Mike Mallet. Next up, I have a women's bantamweight fight. We have Aspen Ladd, who's coming in at 9-2, versus Raquel Pennington, coming in at 13-9. Andrew, talk to me. What's your thoughts on this one?
Man, this whole card is so hard from a betting perspective, and that can happen for a lot of reasons. And on this particular card, it's because there are so many close fights that are just really tough to pick. And then we'll talk about them later when we get there. But then you have these giant favorites at the top of the card that I mean, we'll talk about it when we get there, but maybe you can bet them, maybe you can at those lines. Maybe you have to get creative, that sort of thing. So it's a tough card to bet, and this is a tough fight for me to bet. Um, Aspen Ladd really did not look good in her last fight, but I don't think you can throw out how
Her
good she
her
is
coach
based
didn't
on
think
one
so
fight.
either. Her her coach didn't think so either. He got into a little hot water on that one too. Which again,
Um,
not the show.
right, exactly. So she fights aggressively. Her game is to take opponents down. She likes to get in the clinch, use her trips. She's got really good ground and pound, solid grappler. Uh, but when she can't get the takedown, like she couldn't against Norma Dumont, that got pretty ugly. Um, I almost want to, based on her past performances, chalk that up to everybody has a bad day sometimes and kind of crumple that one up and throw it out. It's hard to do that when it's the most recent fight. Like if you look at somebody that had, like you look at their last five and there's one that's just a total outlier, it's a lot easier to just throw that out and say, oh, maybe they came into the fight injured, or oh, maybe they had something going on in their life at home that their focus wasn't there, or whatever, and throw out one of five. It's tough to throw it out when it's the most recent fight, but for some reason, my gut is tempting me to do that. Pennington with is another one with all the movements on this card. She's coming in on short notice for this fight. She's fought at a really high level for a really long time. She fought Amanda Nunes for the title. She throws really good
She
combinations. She's
just
good in
submitted
the
Macy
clinch.
Faison.
Yeah, exactly. And Macy's a really, really good fighter. Um, she doesn't have the greatest defensive wrestling, which is definitely a worry against Aspen Ladd when that's Aspen Ladd's primary game, and way to win a fight. Raquel Pennington to me is one of these fighters that like is kind of good at everything, but not exceptional at anything. And that makes her what she is, which is a top 10 fighter in the division, one who's been in the top 10 for a good long time. She's on a 3-fight winning streak right now against good opponents. Um, kind of seems like one of these fighters to me, not to talk negatively about any fighter, like we always say, we're not getting in the cage to fight anybody. Um, uh, but kind of seems to me like one of these fighters who's going to hang out around the top 10. She's still only 33 years old, even though she seems like she's been around forever. So I think she's still got a good run in her, but I don't know that she's ever going back to the tippy top, the title fights and that sort of thing. I'm having a really tough time picking this fight because my gut and everything is trying to tell me throw out Aspen Ladd's last fight. She's going to get the takedown. She's going to control on the ground, get ground and pound, and either do enough to win a decision or possibly even get a ground and pound type finish. But given that last fight, I don't think I can confidently put my money there. And also, given how big of just a fan I am of Pennington and her toughness and the way she fights, um, I don't know. This is one of many fights that I've been going back and forth on. So even as I'm saying out of one side of my mouth that I want to bet Ladd, half of me wants to bet Pennington. When that happens, that usually ends up being a pass, and that's what I'm saying about this card being so hard to bet. Is that's got to be like the third or fourth pass out of like 7 fights that we've talked about. But I don't have a bet on it yet. I don't know if I will or not. Talking it through out loud, I don't even know which side I'm going to end up on if I do have a bet at this point. That
Yeah.
might be one of the ones where it's like, how's the night going? I'm
Yep.
going to throw it on one side or the other just by what my gut tells me 3 minutes before the fight.
Yeah. What's the walkouts look like? Aspen Ladd had a terrible fight against Norma Dumont. She just was one step behind, and Norma was 20 steps ahead. and it just showed. And I think you're right. I think her getting stuffed early on threw off her whole plan, and she just wasn't in her groove. It, just plain as simple as it was. She just got beat that night. Pennington's on a 3-fight win streak, and she's doing some dangerous things in the UFC. My gut, though, is leaning towards Aspen. I'm gonna go with just based off of what she's done, and before last fight, understanding that this is the UFC. Sometimes people get beat because they have a better game plan than you. I think Aspen Ladd. I like Aspen Ladd's camp. I think her coach is definitely. I think they're learning from last fight. I think they've definitely probably got her into a great game plan that is going to allow her to win. Like you said, Pennington's takedown defense not as great. As some of the former fighters. So I think Aspen's just got to take advantage of it and do her thing. I do see this as a possible KO. I do think I see this as like a ground and pound and with a ground and pound finish.
Interesting.
Interesting line to get to look at on that one. But I will be taking Aspen by herself.
You can get pretty
No,
good
no
odds on that
parlays.
too.
Yeah,
I mean,
no parlays, no nothing.
that's
I'm
the
going
thing with
straight up
this
on
is
this one.
like I'm in my head like this is a pick'em fight in my brain, and definitely the value is on Aspen Ladd. I mean, you can get her plus 160 on some of the books out there right now, where
Yep,
you're paying
that's
closer to minus 190, minus 200 for Pennington.
that's what I have her at. I got her at plus 160. Taking it, like I said, I'm taking it by herself.
Definitely the value absolutely is on that side, in my opinion.
I'll probably throw her in my like underdog parlay too, just because you got to love a good underdog parlay. But won't probably put her in much more besides just being by herself. I'm excited to watch her. I'm excited to see how she responds to the loss from last time. And I see that coach get all fired up again. Again, as a former athlete, I'm used to it. I was yelled at.
Sure.
I think sometimes you just need to get motivated.
Part of coaching.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think anything he said was wrong. Wasn't abusing her or calling her names. He just told her to wake the F up. Sometimes you need that. And then sometimes it just doesn't happen. It doesn't go your way. And that was just last fight for her. So I'm excited. So, again, that was our women's bantamweight, Aspen Ladd, Raquel Pennington. No matter what, once again, Dana, great matchmaking, man. Hey, boss. Good job, boss. Really, really good. You don't pay for anything of mine. You don't give me any type of paycheck, but I tell you what, you give me something to talk about. So thanks, boss. We love you, Uncle Dana. All right, next up we have. This is a wild fight. Heavyweight matchup versus two
This one's fun.
absolute savages. You got Jairzinho Rosenstrike versus Marcin Tybura. Rosenstrike coming in at 12-3, Tybura coming in at 22-7. Both of these men love to finish. That's pretty much what they know how to do. So it's going to be crazy. I'll tell you, bet the under and not to go the distance is that's a lock for you. We'll get through what else we think, but I'm just telling you right now, does not go the distance.
Let's see what
Lock,
the odds are on that.
lock, keep the change. You're gonna thank me for that one. While you're looking at that, just some stats for you there. Um, Rosenstrike is 12-3. He's got 11 knockouts. Marcin Tybura 22-7 has 15 finishes of his 22 wins, 9 knockouts, 6 submissions. Yeah, he was on a 5-fight. Tybura was on a 5-fight win streak before he lost to Volkov by unanimous decision. And Volkov, honestly, Volkov just had a good fight. You know, again proving why he's in the top 10. He fought a good fight. Like, he fought a really, really good fight and worked
He's a
him.
good fighter.
He teed off
I
on
mean,
him. He
what
took his
Aspinall did
shots.
to
He
him
got
was
his
impressive.
grounds. Yeah, he fought just an all-around great fight. And Rosenstrike, he went the distance with Ngannou, Blades, and Gane. So his 3 losses are to
Those are some pretty quality losses.
Champ, just
Guy who
lost,
just fought for the title,
just fought for the title, and
and somebody else who's in the top 5.
who's on his way. So Rosenstrike's no slouch. So talk to me though. Enough about me. Enough about what I think. What about you, Andrew? What do you got for this one?
So just a minor correction. He didn't go the distance with Ngannou. He got flatlined in the first round. But he did go the distance with Gane and Blades. Yeah, I mean, so just to answer the question from a second ago, fight doesn't go to decision is around minus 200. I agree with you. I think that's so much likely to happen that at minus 200, that's still playable. So yeah, Rosenstrike, kickboxing background, really moves well for a heavyweight on his feet. Like you mentioned, his losses are to the best of the best. He uses his kicks well, like any kickboxer does. That's not telling you anything you don't know. He's got really good combinations. He's got power, written in all capital letters in my notes. 11 of his 12 wins are by knockout or TKO. His one, I mean, he has a major downside. His secondary downside is that sometimes his fights are really slow paced. Like sometimes they become these dancing, boring, staring at each other type fights. And his biggest weakness is that he primarily is a kickboxer, so he's really good at that. He has okay-ish takedown defense. It's not bad. It's decent enough takedown defense, but once he gets on the ground, he's almost like a fish out of water. Tybura, on the other hand, fights with pressure, likes to be in the clinch, loves to go for takedowns. He's been knocked out a few times. He's also been touched by the likes of the late to the UFC great Greg Hardy. He can grind. He can get rocked and keep coming. Like that's the thing is he does have a little bit of a chin on him, but he's hittable. I mean, he's taking those shots to have me say he has a chin. And if you do that against Rosenstrike, you're putting yourself in trouble. So this, among many fights on this card, is one that makes me feel like I have a split personality because it's does Rosenstrike come out and starch him in the first round and knock him out, or does Tybura figure out how to get into the clinch, grind, work takedowns, and get a finish of his own on the ground by submission or ground and pound? I am leaning towards the side of Rosenstrike. It's possible knockout bet for me. It's kind of an easy one to go for him as the knockout bet. So I don't want to try to get a little more creative than that, but it's definitely a possibility. But I haven't bet it yet, and it's another one where even if I do end up betting it, the confidence is going to be low because I can see it going either which way.
Yeah, I do too. And so for me, I went straight stats here, and I'm going Tabura, and I'm going to tell you why on the stats here. First off, we have leg reach, 5-inch advantage going
I
for the
love that
man
leg reach
Tabura.
stat. Where do you pull that from? Because
UFC.com event
just the
slash
UFC website. Okay. Because I'm looking all
UFC.com
these other
slash
places and I
event
never.
slash UFC dash 273 hashtag
Okay. So it's just
971.
UFC.com.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, I look all these places and, you see height advantage, reach
Yep.
advantage, but you never see leg reach advantage.
No,
That's
never.
an interesting
You
stat.
also got height advantage, Tabura, and you got 1 pound weight advantage. Then we look at the next one is significant strikes, and Taburo's got the slight advantage with 3.65 over 2.8. He's got more significant strike advantage on the accuracy that he's landing at, 49% to 46% for Rosenstrike. Now here's where Rosenstrike does win, and it brings up your point though of where Tabora has gone into issues, is shots taken. Tabura he takes more shots, 3.44 than Rosenstrike, but Rosenstrike's still at 3.07, so not that big of a window, but slight advantage Rosenstrike. Now the defense. This is where although he's taking strikes, he's also dodging out of strikes more. Taboro's got a higher defense percentage with 54%, 10%, well, 9% more than Rosenstrike. So far, that's what I'm saying. Lots of when I look at something like this, I have to think, okay, what's statistically showing up in the data? So now we move to the really important one, grappling, because this is where I think is going to change the pace of the fight.
Huge advantage, Tybura.
We are looking huge. 1.4 per fight compared to 0 on Rosenstrike. We're looking at a 32 accuracy.
Yeah, Rosenstrike's not trying to take you down. He's trying to knock you out. I mean, 11 out of 12 wins by knockout.
Yeah, and we're looking at a huge takedown defense advantage against someone with Rosenstrike who's only got a 75% takedown advantage, which again is not terrible, but it's not great either. So to me, when I look at that, we're looking at almost every single line Taburo has the advantage on. He's sitting at an underdog line for me. To me, I'm screaming, I have to bet Tabora. But it's so much closer than just doing that this is why, again, I wouldn't ever say you go strictly off stats. For me, it's just making me feel like I'm making the more educated guess. But Rosenstrike is a great fighter. He's got knockout power. This could very easily go the other way. But when I look at something this close, and I think fighters are so they have their strengths and they have weaknesses, I have to look at the numbers. The numbers that I'm seeing lean and have the heavy going towards Tabura. And then, like I said, I see underdog, and I say throw the money on that one. So
one thing I'm trying to do with my UFC betting and MMA betting in general recently is to look for live betting spots more. So like on the card a couple weeks ago, I hit Chris Gutierrez on a really good live bet, and that one was one that I had planned ahead of time. I said, if he makes it out of the first round and he's looking solid, let's throw some money on him at plus money, and that one came through. And so I'm trying to be better at looking for those spots, and I think this could potentially be one of those spots where if Tybura is looking okay and still not sleeping after the first round, and maybe even has been able to get a takedown in the first round, and it was a close first round, there's a possible live betting spot on Tybura here. I mean, obviously, if he lays on him the first round and he's minus 700 going into the second round, you don't want to do that. But you can get Tybura at plus 200 or so going into the second round. That might not be a terrible spot.
No, not at all. Well, that was our heavyweight matchup: Jairzinho Rosenstrike versus Marcin Tybura. Whatever the outcome, it's gonna be a good one. All right. Moving right along, we have Ian Gary, 8-0, electric in the UFC right now, making a statement in his last fight versus Darian Weeks, 5-1. Andrew, talk to me. What's your what's your thoughts on this one?
Oh man, this one. I mean, it just continues the string of fights that are tricky to bet on this card. And for anybody who's watching us the first time, I promise we almost always bet on almost every single fight on the card. I promise there are not usually this many passes or this many bets that are undecided.
Also, be
by
very
the time
clear
that
we're saying pass, but I bet you we do bet on them.
Right. I mean, we're saying pass for what we're putting out publicly, and then of course we're sitting there watching the fights, and it gets to like, all right, what's the next fight that's coming up in 5 minutes? All right, what from all my research, from how my night's going, from everything, yeah, we're gonna throw, might not be huge bets. We're gonna throw a few bucks on whatever the next fight up is if we don't already have a bet on it. So yes, being real, we do bet every fight, and we'll probably bet every fight, even though you know uh, from my bigger bets getting put together earlier in the week, some of these are passes. Yeah, we're gonna throw a few bucks at them later. um this one is another one that's incredibly hard to bet for me. So Ian Gary, he's the hype prospect. When I first went and looked at this card, I was like, oh yeah, Gary, no doubt. Put him in every parlay. He's going to win. Um, and then I did the homework. So Gary was very much losing the fight against Williams in his first UFC fight the last time out, until he knocked him out at the very end of the first round. And credit to him, he found that shot. But he was losing that fight in his debut. He's got strong wrestling, which we didn't see really very much in the fight against Williams, but if you go back deeper into his tape, it's there. He's got really good ground and pound. His kickboxing and head kicks are incredible. I think that's part of the reason why so many people are so hyped on him as a prospect. Kicks in general from him are really good, and I think that's one of the keys actually to him winning in this fight. He scrambles well. Like I said already, he needs to keep the kickboxing at a distance. He's going to have a big height advantage. He's 6'2". Weeks is coming in here 5'9". Tank of a guy. He came in on very, very short notice. It was less than a week's notice, and had a brawl with Brian Barberena. And that fight was 1-1 going into the third round, and Weeks had come into that on it was like 4 days notice or something like that. It was a ridiculously short amount of time that he took that fight on, and he didn't have it in the third round. But he was 1-1 with Barberena going into the third. It was an impressive performance, and even the round he lost in the first round, he put up a good showing there against Barberena, who's a solid vet in the UFC. I mean, we saw the absolute banger he had with Matt Brown a couple of weeks ago. So Weeks definitely showed that he belongs in the UFC, because he came in with he did lose the fight, of course, to Barberena, but he came into the UFC originally with a 5-0 record against not the greatest level of competition. So he definitely showed that he belongs, even though it was a losing effort. He throws volume, mixes in takedowns pretty well. Not the greatest grappler, but decent grappling, solid wrestling. He has a wrestling background. He also has a boxing background and solid boxing. He did eat a lot of leg kicks against Barberena. I'm sure his camp has probably been drilling, checking leg kicks with him, and that'll be an important key for him against Gary. My pick for this fight is going to be Ian Gary. I do think he wins the fight. There is not a snowball's chance in hell that I'm betting Ian Gary in this fight at -400 or whatever he's at right now. I guess you can get a little better than that. You can get -360, looks like the best odds that are out there, and it's up to -400. I'm not betting that. This is a much closer fight than that. I do think Gary's going to win, but I don't think that that paying that price tag is the way to go.
So, yeah, this is I want to root for Gary. I like him. I like what he does. I think he's fun. But you look at the stats here, and Darian Weeks got all the advantages, and it's mostly because of volume. The man puts out a significant amount more volume, and you talk about Ian's last fight against Jordan Williams, where he was kind of getting in a little sketchy territory. And yes, he found a way to win. He finished him. So again,
And he's one of
shout
these guys,
out.
like you
But
bring up the fight against Jordan Williams, like he was getting hit for two reasons. It was number one, he had his hands low at times, and so you're gonna get hit for that. But then he also did the thing where instead of having good head movement, he did the thing, I forget which fighter I was talking about earlier in the card with the same thing, but he did the thing where like Dusko Todorovic does the same thing, where it's like instead of rolling with a puncher, instead of having good head movement and ducking and dodging, it's a punch is coming at me, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to go straight back with my chin up, and that is not good in the UFC.
yeah, no, and so I'm going with Ian. I'm not confident at the minus 360. I am going with my pick as Ian, but the weird gambler in me, I'm probably gonna throw like a unit on Darian and just sit and watch the fight.
I think the value's on weeks at this point. I think like we were talking about a second ago, like when you're sitting there watching the card and it's like this is the next fight up and I don't have a bet yet. I'll actually say I'm pretty sure that at that point, if not even before then, just because even though Gary's my pick, I do think he's going to win the fight. The value is all the way on weeks on the betting line. You can get plus 300, which means, you know, if you're betting $10 on that, you're going to win 30. If you're betting, 20 to win 60, whatever it is, you're tripling your money if he wins.
My betting angles for this fight are you need to throw Gary in with the other heavy favorites on a parlay and just hope you picked it right and hope that the bookies were right, or the values on the other end and throw a plus 280, throw the money on the weeks. Now, if you're betting in the upwards of hundreds and thousands of dollars and you're betting the $1 million, which I don't even know why you're listening to this show, you already know what you're doing, then yeah, I could see you wanting to put a minus 300 bet on there because there is a lot more return when you're betting a lot more money than that. But we're not
still
there.
The same percentage risk either way, no matter what your bet amount, your unit, whatever it is, it's still the
same. Yeah. So not a value for me. You wouldn't catch me doing something like that. Like I said, my betting angle would be is mix them in with a couple other heavy favorite parlays, or you got to bet weeks straight. But you will not see me having anything with Gary by himself. I think he's going to win. I want him to win, but I think he's put up some suspect things, and I don't want to risk my money on that.
Yeah, and this is one of those ones that, I mean, I said it when I first started talking. It went from like, oh yeah, slam dunk, UFC's showcasing a prospect on a big, exciting fight card to, whoa, let's wait a minute. So we'll see what happens on Saturday.
Yeah, like I said, I always love watching Ian Gary fight. So I am excited. I do think he is the future. I hope he gets the win. I really do. But Darian Weeks is he's a lot tougher of a fighter than plus 280 line right now. This line's way too wide. I think it's way too wide. I think just looking
at Gary hasn't shown the skill set to be a minus 400 favorite.
Not at all. All right, well, that was our welterweight matchup with Ian Gary and Darian Weeks, and that is going to wrap up our early prelims and our prelims. We'll be right with you to go over our main event card of Andrew Volkanovski versus the Korean Zombie in UFC.
It would be cool if his name was Andrew.
Yeah, right.
Alexander.
Yes, Alexander Volkanovski versus the Korean Zombie, UFC 273. Jacksonville, Florida. We'll be with you right after a quick word from our sponsor. Boom.
Sweet. That went well, I think.
Yeah, I don't know what the time was.
Long.
everybody, and welcome back to Recliner Sports Report Knockout Bets podcast. Tonight we are talking about UFC 273 Volkanovski versus the Korean Zombie in Jacksonville, Florida. First up on the main card, we have Vince Pichel, who is coming in at 14-2, versus Mark, the Olympian Madsen, who is coming in 11-0. And I didn't do Vince justice. His nickname, From Hell.
Vince from Hell, Pichel.
So, Andrew, this is a wild. I literally have on my sheet. I have an equal sign circled because this is
Yeah.
absolute brawl. I don't know where to pick on this. I do have a pick, but Andrew, talk to me. What are your thoughts, and who do you have for this one?
Hey, I'm right with you. I have on my notes written in the margin dog or pass. And that's either one of them being a dog significantly enough because I think the line's pretty close to a pick 'em. Let's pop it up.
Yeah, I
So
got
yeah, you
Madsen
can
at a
get
slight underdog right now, plus
slight
115.
underdog plus about 115, and then Pichel's about minus 135. So if I were sitting 3 minutes before the fight and about to take a bet on it, I'd be betting Madsen. And that may be the way that I end up anyhow, but this is the one out of all of them, and there are so many incredibly tough fights to pick this week, but out of all of them, this may be the toughest. I've like day to day, hour to hour, as I've been doing my research this week, had a different pick on this fight. Like you mentioned, Madsen's the Olympian, obviously was in the Olympics, won a silver medal in Greco-Roman wrestling. He does have questionable gas tank, and for a guy who's a wrestler and that's his primary path to victory, doesn't necessarily have the best submissions. He wrestles really well, but not necessarily. Let's put it this way: one of the next fights we're going to talk about is Mackenzie Dern. She gets you on the ground, you're in a world of trouble of getting submitted. It's not necessarily the same case with Madsen. Pichel's got a really good gas tank, on the other hand, solid leg kicks, likes to throw a power right hand. His takedown defense, which is a problem for him in this fight against Madsen, is not all that great. He's got 25% takedown defense in a good long career. That's not a really great number when you're going up against an Olympic wrestler. However, he does, when he is taken down, he scrambles really well and has a really good get-up game. What kind of is an X factor for me in this one, and maybe it's not even that great. I'm trying to pop up how long ago it was exactly because I know it was a little while ago. But when Vince Pichel fought Gregor Gillespie, he had a lot of problems with the wrestling. That was in 2018, so that's right about 4 years ago. It was in June of 2018, so that's a good time back. And Pichel's gone on a 3-fight win streak since then. But if you're going to struggle with the wrestling of Gregor Gillespie, who, no slight to him, is an incredible wrestler and one of the better wrestlers in the UFC, Madsen may be the single best wrestler in the UFC. You know, how many other UFC fighters have a Olympic medal in wrestling? There are a few, but not many. I'm leaning towards Madsen by ground control time, basically. I don't think that he's going to finish Vince Pichel, but I do think that he will be able to take him down, and I do think that probably is able to hold him on the ground long enough to win a decision. I can also very much see Madsen gassing out, Pichel taking over late, and Pichel either winning a decision or getting a finish in the second or third round. So this one's very, very, very tight for me. If it so happens that Madsen goes up to like plus 130, plus 140. That's the time where I think I get on the train there. And I would do the equal same thing if the line flips. If the line flips and I can get Michelle at plus 130, plus 140, I would take that too. I think the line of being very close to a pick'em fight is accurate.
Oh, it's definitely accurate. Again, kind of like Kay Hansen, everyone talks about the wrestling, but statistically, Madsen puts out some volume, man. He's landing at almost 4.5 strikes per minute. Significant strikes landed, and that's actually more than Pichel. And he actually lands at a significant, or his significant strikes at a higher rate at 48%. I actually really like. I think Mark Madsen wins here, and I think it's a lock for me on this one. I really like his fighting style. Um, Something that you don't see much out of wrestlers like have wrestling backgrounds. You don't see a lot of they don't work in feints with their level changes. Madsen does this really cool thing where he works in like a, and again, not Sugar Sean, because Sugar Sean is his own fighter, but that little like that just backwards look on a just like a to make it feel like you're spinning, and then moves that into like a nice little level change for a takedown. But like, because you always have to respect, he throws them intentionally. He doesn't throw them. There's some fighters that are wrestlers, which we've kind of talked about earlier tonight, that they are going in with one mission to wrestle. Madsen uses his wrestling to set up his striking and uses his striking to mix in level changes really smart and effectively. And I like how technical and flowy he can become at the same time. Whereas he can be really, really to a game plan, but he also has a little bit of flow and creativity to him. It was really fun watching his fights and really doing the research on him. I really have come to appreciate his style. No disrespect to Vince, because he is an absolute.
It's a brawler.
So Vince, to me, he looks like Daniel Day-Lewis, Billy the Butcher in Gangs of New York, like straight up. And Billy the Butcher was a savage. So this dude is Billy the Butcher, essentially, that we're talking about. I just really like Madsen's fight style. I think he's gonna find a way to mix in the ground game to secure his victory with the ground control time, but do not count out his striking. He's actually a really, really good striker. I'm actually more impressed with his striking than most people are giving him credit for. And I'm going to take Madsen. I think another line to look at here. Both men are tough demons. So unless this is ending with a submission, I don't see one of them knocking each other out. I see these tough dudes battling this to the wire. But I'm not seeing a knockout here. But I could be wrong. It's UFC. But I like Madsen
An
for sure.
interesting point to bring up with this one too that also leans in the little favor of Madsen, I guess, is they have a very recent common opponent, which is Austin Hubbard. That
Yep.
was 2 fights ago for Madsen, and I think for Pichel that was his most recent fight.
Yep.
And if you look at the grappling against Austin Hubbard for both of them, Austin Hubbard was taking Pichel down um, quite a few times. And when Austin Hubbard fought Madsen, it was the opposite. It was Madsen taking him down.
Right.
So MMA math doesn't necessarily always work like that, but I think it's worth mentioning in that you can draw a little bit
As
from that, especially since those
as
were recent fights.
as Jersey Jerry from Barstool Sports would say, find the patterns. All right, find the pattern. We already found one pattern tonight with Mickey Gull. This is our other pattern. All right, patterns. It was always Duke, right, Jerry? It was always Duke. It was always
Good, I like it. So small
uh,
underdog. We're both on Madsen.
awesome. It's again, we got Billy the Butcher versus the Olympian. I don't even know. Yeah, from hell. That's what I'm saying. He's just such a savage. All right, moving right along. We have a women's strawweight. Next up, we have Mackenzie Dern, which is 11-2 versus Tisha Torres, who is coming in at 13-5. These two ladies have had quite a career in the UFC, and are 100%. Like literally, Tiny Tornado is the perfect description, perfect nickname. Every time these two women step into the octagon, it is fireworks. Andrew, talk to me. What are your thoughts on this one?
So what's crazy about this card is if we're looking purely at money lines, this is probably my favorite betting spot on the card, and I still don't feel all that great about it. Mackenzie Dern, we know about her. BJJ, incredible grappler, incredible submission artist. If she puts you on your back, you're very close to finished, and you've got to have really strong grappling defense to survive, let alone to get back to your feet and get back in the fight. Mackenzie Dern's striking definitely leaves something to be desired, but it has been improving if you look fight to fight through her recent history. And since she had her kid, she's really been on a run, with the exception of getting taken out by Marina Rodriguez, who's one of my favorite women's fighters going right now. Tish Torres, like you said, the tiny tornado. She's on a 4-fight win streak. She fights at an incredibly high pace, has a really incredible gas tank, super well rounded. She's fought the best of the best. She's been in there with a ton of big names, some wins, some losses. She has solid takedown defense, which is something that I starred. Mackenzie Dern, like we talk about, when she gets you on the ground, you're in a world of hurt. But her, as good a jujitsu practitioner as she is, her offensive wrestling and her getting the takedowns, I'm not going to say are a weakness, because she obviously gets them quite often, but she's not, for somebody who's so much of a submission artist, her takedowns are behind that skill
She has a
wise.
very low actually average.
Yeah, and
She
that doesn't
she
surprise
completes
me.
at 10. She completes at 10%.
Yeah, and that
90
doesn't surprise me, because
90% of the time she's missing. One
it's
thing to bring
evident
up
when
though
you watch
about
her
Tisha
fights.
though is, and I just saw this on Twitter, is Tisha brought in Maverick to help her with her
The
grappling.
train,
Well, I'm assuming to help with grappling and takedown
gotta
defense
be.
and preparing for Mackenzie's style of fighting. So I would assume. Again, I don't know. Maybe they were doing striking. Who knows? But I would guess if I was there that that's why you would want to bring someone like Miranda Maverick in. I think Mackenzie's BJJ is definitely something to write home about. I think her only path to victory is getting the fight to the ground, controlling the cage, and making this
Yeah.
dirty.
So
But you're
to
going,
that point,
yeah.
Tisha throws a lot of kicks.
And that's
So
what I
I
was about
do
to
think
say.
there's
Yep.
a, yeah,
And
okay.
like
So I took your
Tisha
point,
is,
but if she catches a
yeah,
kick,
yeah. And so Tisha needs to do what we always say in those type of scenarios is fight off the back foot, ready to counter, throw the kicks, throw the, when it gets in tight, get the knees, get the kicks in, really work the body on Mackenzie Dern and make sure. And again, um, she has really good takedown defense. I mean, she's
right.
over 50%. So, um,
And
and
she's
again,
never been finished either, which is important to note, because
yeah,
Mackenzie Dern's best path to winning is by submission,
oh,
and
100%.
Tisha's never been finished. And so saying she's never been finished, you can say that about anybody. This is somebody, and she had a 4-fight losing streak, but if you look at who those 4 losses were to, it's Jessica Andrade, Joanna Jędrzejczyk, Weili Zhang, and Marina Rodriguez. You're talking about like 4 of the best women's fighters in the game right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Tisha
those
needs
are all
to,
losses, but never was finished, and has wins over like Michelle Watterson, Angela Hill, some really, really good fighters.
yeah, Tisha definitely needs to up the volume here. She needs to control the cage. She needs to defend those takedowns, keep this thing on the feet, keep the pressure and volume up. But if Mackenzie can get this thing to the ground, Mackenzie's actually going to be my pick. And this is only because I feel like, and again, there's no stat. I haven't tracked this, which we should start tracking this. But when we look at like strikers versus grapplers, and we look at this, it's usually like the grapplers are coming out on top if they can get the ground control. Now, again, we go back to just recently, Jillian Robertson, who we were like, this is such a for sure lock, take it, submission.
You can't get the takedown.
So, it definitely is in the back of my mind is okay when you have someone who's got good takedown defense like Torres and who just brought in Maverick. But I think Dern. I have faith Dern's gonna have a great game plan. She's gonna really mix in some striking with some level changes. I think she's gonna do it when she sees uh, the right out for her to get in and get in and inside and up and level change. I don't think she's just gonna throw willy nilly. I think she's gonna force Torres to get into some situations where she's pressing forward, throwing the volume, throwing the kicks, and then level change up and in, and then get her to the ground, and then just do what she does best on the ground.
So
Yeah,
I'm on the other side with this one. I'm taking Tisha, and I said leading it off, this is it's crazy that this is my most confident betting spot for a money line anyway on this card. Because it's not that confident of a pick, but I'm definitely going with Tisha. I think she's got the takedown defense to um, be able to stay on the feet. I think if she stays on the feet, she wins 30-27 if she can stay on the feet all 3 rounds.
100%.
Um, and yeah, I mean that's the way I see it playing out, and coupling that with the fact that Torres has never been finished, and of course you've never been finished until it happens the first time, but that also means that she's got the toughness, she's got the defensive game plan. I mean, to not get finished by like Thug Rose, Joanna, Wei Lee, like if those type of fighters aren't finishing you, and I get Mackenzie's a different animal than any of them with the grappling that she has, but
Yeah.
I'm going Tisha on this one. I haven't bet it yet for a specific reason, and this is something that I think is useful in betting for a lot of people. If you can look at these types of things, if you're a non-expert in just getting into gambling, Mackenzie Dern is incredibly popular. She's already the favorite slightly on the money line. And my feeling is that the closer and closer that this gets to fight time, that Mackenzie Dern is going to become a bigger favorite, and that I'm going to get a better number on Tisha Torres closer to the fight than I am now. So, like right now, the best number on Tisha Torres is plus 104. Um, Caesar Sportsbook even has this fight as a pick 'em as the best odds you're going to get on Mackenzie Dern. But I think that we'll see as it gets closer to fight time, Mackenzie Dern. I don't think it's going to run away because I think enough people are smart enough, but we might see Mackenzie Dern going down to like minus 130, minus 135, and that's the point where I hop on Tisha Torres at plus 110 instead of plus 100.
Oh, for sure. It'll be interesting to see kind of how the next couple days play out with the weigh-ins. All right, that was our women's strawweight, Mackenzie Dern versus Tisha Torres. All right, next one. Honestly, buddy, I don't even really need to talk about it too much because I'll tell you right now, we got Gilbert Burns 20-4 versus Khamzat Chimaev. I'm telling
Dude,
you right now, it's Khamzat Chimaev by murder. That's what it's going to be.
this
Um,
is the people's main event. This is the absolute, like, I get we have 2 title fights after this. This is the people's main event right here. This for me anyway. I can't speak for everybody, but for me anyway,
it's
this is
Recliner
the
Sports
fight that
Report's main
makes
event.
this right. This is the fight that makes this card the most exciting to see. And we've got good fights all up and down the card, but this is the one. This is appointment television. This is what I'm tuning in for more than any other fight on the card, including the title fights.
Yeah,
Um,
I just want to be very clear here. Gilbert Burns is not a bum. He is a great fighter. Chimaev, I really do believe the hype, and I think he's the real deal. What I
I
watched
hope
that man,
so.
what I watched that man do versus Li Jialing was very scary. He picked him up, he carried him, he shouted, and then he, he just threw him through the octagon, and then I thought he
right
murdered
in
him.
his corner in
I
front
thought
of
he
his coaches.
I thought he murdered him. Like, I didn't think he was gonna let go. Like, Chimaev is out. Like Gilbert Burns said, actually, I was just watching the trailer. Dana White put the trailer up for this, which he even wrote. He's like, "This is the fight that I'm most excited about," on his Instagram. Um, Gilbert Burns says, he says, Chimaev is coming to take my head off. And what I love about Burns is he said, I want to fight the best guys. So I don't
Yeah.
care. I don't care who it is. And I respect that out of Burns. Again, when you have a career like he's had, and he's been nothing but a yes man from the UFC, and I respect everything about him.
And you're talking about a dude who gave Kamaru Usman a fight.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
a fight like nobody has given Kamaru with the exception of Colby Covington.
Yep. So it's he's this is a true test for Chimaev. I do think it's disrespectful for a minus 500 favorite when you're number 11 and Burns is number 2, but Chimaev is that scary. Yeah, man. Again, no disrespect to Burns. He's a warrior, true savage, and you know what? Somewhat of me hopes that he pulls it off, but to me, it's Chimaev by murder, 100%.
So let me ask you, which type of murder? KO or is it a submission?
We were talking about this earlier, man. I don't know because I see it so if I was Chimaev, knowing how good of a striker Burns or how much power Burns has, but also being aware that Burns he can be dangerous on the ground too as well. Um, I am not letting Burns punch me. So I need to work in a takedown right off the rip, like what he's done all his other fights. But he needs to make sure that he ends up on top in a dominant mount position.
Right. And then
Because
even at that point, I mean, talking about how good Burns is,
yep,
then you're trying to submit a guy who is a high level BJJ black
yep.
belt.
So I think he needs to make sure whatever position he gets in, it's the right one. But then I think Chimaev works the ground and pound, and I think he works. I could see him working it into a submission. Now, that's one outcome. The other outcome, like you said, I could see him doing a nice little 1-2 combo, 3-piece in a soda, and that's it. Lights out, game over. And again, I don't know. Chimaev's got some thunder in his fists, man. He's got some thunder in his fists, and
He's a scary, scary dude.
he is strong. So
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna go KO. I don't know what the line
Okay.
is yet, but I think I'm gonna. You know what? For the sake of being the Knockout Bets podcast, and I hate when these guys always come in with they know they can submit them and then just go and submit. I want to see a knockout. I want to see a knockout. I'm going with knockout. Like I said, I could see him and I hate when this happens. You know when this happens is when it's going to be a knockout and then they get on top and just throw them in a choke hold or a rear naked choke and then they tap out. But it's like, that was a knockout. You know what I'm saying? Like, just why did we even get to that point? I could see something where like
Yeah,
he
you
knocks
call
them
that
down. Yeah.
the old club and sub.
Yeah, right. So I could see that too, but I'm gonna confidently I'm gonna say KO for Chimaev.
Okay.
Who are you liking on this one?
So breaking it down, we've already done most of it. Burns is an elite black belt in jiu-jitsu. He's got the absolute KO power in the hands. He has submission skills himself. Important to note on this one is Gilbert Burns used to fight down a weight class, and we've seen Khamzat fight up a weight class from where this fight is taking place. I'm very interested to see. We know Khamzat's going to have a size advantage. I'm very interested to see come weigh-ins on Friday just how much that size advantage looks like when they square off after the weigh-ins. Chimaev, I mean, do we even need to talk about his accomplishments? He's 4-0 in the UFC. He's 10-0, all finishes. He's finished all his UFC fights super quickly. The stat is, and this one stuck in my mind, so far in his UFC career, he's landed 122 significant strikes and he's been hit once. Like, the guy does not take damage, he inflicts damage. I'm all about the hype too. Like, this, he's probably my favorite UFC fighter right now. Um, that being said, if we're going to talk about is there any bad for Kamzat, we've never seen him out of the first round. So let's say he can't get Gilbert Burns out in the first 3 minutes or even in the first round. What does his gas look like in round 2, round 3? There are legends coming out of his camp. If you pay attention to the news, that he has incredible cardio. You take all that with a grain of salt, because guys are just going to try to big up guys from their own camp. But I don't know. It's almost like the legend of Chimaev is so big that you probably believe that. Like, he just, even though we've never seen it, you think he probably does have a good gas tank because he's so good at everything. But there's got to be that little seed of a doubt of, we haven't seen it. So how will he handle it if Burns gives him a fight, and if it turns into a war? I still think he's going to win. We'll get into talking about the other guys who are huge favorites on this card later. I'm going to be betting Kamzat. I'm probably going to stick him in some parlays. I'm probably going to, yeah, I mean, I don't know which type of finish, and it's crazy that that's more of the conversation than is he going to win, or is he possibly going to win by decision. That is a possibility, of course, but we haven't seen him do anything but finish guys. But we also haven't seen him. I mean, this is a huge step up in competition, even from Li Jianliang, and he fought Gerald Meerschaert, which is a tough opponent, and the guys before that maybe not so much, but it's a huge step up. And I'm with you. I think he's going to roll, and I think one of the big reasons I think he's going to roll is that no matter how the fight plays out, he's got a huge size advantage. And I think that's a big X factor here, separate from, like, he's building a legend right now. Like, guys don't do what he's done. He's a scary man, and so fun to watch fight. So I'm definitely picking Kamzat all the way. Definitely betting it. And I'll look for the creativity. What looks better, sub or KO? What's got? I mean, I almost feel like that's like a 50-50 shot of whether it's a sub or a KO. So whichever one of those has slightly better odds might be the way to go.
Yeah, that's what I'm probably going to look at. What does like a even, and I might even drill it down further. Like, what does a first round knockout look like? To see if I could get creative with that. All right. That was, it's going to be wild. It's going to be wild. Gilbert Burns.
People's main event, as far as I'm concerned.
Versus Kamzat Chimaev. Absolute lightning show. All right. Next up, the fact that we're even still on these two. Aljamain, Funkmaster Sterling versus Peter No Mercy Jan, literally no mercy, throwing kicks to the head. Man, I see it all the time. All right, and I want to take a moment here. Okay, all I see is people saying, "Oh, Aljamain Sterling, he was winning the fight, or he got knee illegal." I'm telling you right now.
Did he win the first round? Yes. Was he winning the fight? I don't think so.
The knee, Funkmaster had already lost before that knee was thrown. At that point, I mean, for the time leading up into the knee, he kept being on the ground, like going like this, and Jan was just literally like, "What else am I supposed to do?" And he definitely got up. When you're a professional fighter, you need to know the rules. I get that. He made a dumb decision. I do think it was his corner's fault. I think he got a miss coach call from his corner. I think they were like, "You're good," and he was like, "Whatever." But it just showed how dominant he was that they were able to have that conversation and still make the wrong move, but still like you were in a dominant position to make a calculated decision. Peter Yan, you said it right. Yeah. Did he lose the first round? Yeah. Jan always loses the first round. He always
Right.
does it.
To Zemo, he's such a good fighter, and we see this with like elite level guys where they're taking the first round to get their reads and to take in information
Yep.
and to go, okay, now I have my information, now I'm going to go win the fight.
Yep. So
And in a 5-round fight, you can afford to do that in the first round
yeah.
if you're that elite level.
Yeah. So I I think Jan's gonna do the exact same thing he's done his last however many fights. He's gonna download in the first, and then he's gonna unload in the second, third until it gets the job done. What do you think here?
Yeah, oh, I'm totally with you. I'm totally on Jan. I totally think that except for I mean, it's hard to argue for anybody except for the disqualification. He would have won the first fight.
Yes, it was illegal. We get like you know what I'm saying. Like I agree with
Right.
everyone who says that point, but
Well, so
anyone
the
to say
thing
that
that
he wasn't winning the fight or that Funkmaster was winning the fight, you're
yeah.
you're
So
crazy.
there's two things that I'm sick and tired of just with this whole thing is people debating whether Aljo faked it or not.
It was
Whether he
real.
did or didn't doesn't matter. I happen to believe that it was real. The dude got rocked by a knee while he was on the ground. I happen to believe that it was real. Maybe he played it up. Who cares? Nobody cares. It's over and done with. Here we are. We're having the rematch, and we're gonna settle it this time. And then the other thing is, when Aljo gets the belt at first, he like throws it down and leaves it in the ring, and then later on, he's taking all these pictures with the belt and this and that and da 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 da. So pick which one it is. Are you the champion or are you not? And I get there's reaction in the moment and then thoughts later on, but I'm sick of that part of it too. Yeah, Jan is super technical. He like the word that I come up with to describe him, he's just like a whirling dervish. Like that's the type of fighter he is. Um, he's got super great volume. He moves really well. He, like you already talked about, he approaches fights really calmly and takes like the time to figure out what he needs to do to win. He's fought since the last time these two guys fought against Corey Sandhagen, who was absolutely no slouch and put on an impressive performance there. Aljo, obviously champed by a legal knee, went out strong and started to gas after winning that first round. He kind of threw the kitchen sink at him and then didn't have a whole lot left when he didn't get a finish in the first round. He has really great wrestling and submissions, but what I think is really important to note is that in the first fight, Jan was starting to take over the wrestling after the first round. And if Aljo doesn't have the wrestling advantage, he doesn't have the advantage anywhere. And that's part of the reason I think this fight is lined where it is, with Jan being such a big favorite, is because I think he's deserving of it, and because I think he's going to win the fight.
Here's the only way Jan loses. He gets DQ'd. It's the only way he loses.
TQ 2 times in a row. Could you imagine?
That's the only way he loses this fight. This man is a better fighter.
I mean, anybody can get clipped with a shot or caught in something crazy that's
But
just like out of left field.
Jan doesn't put
Something,
himself in those positions. He is such a technical
right?
fighter. He has such good defense. His stance is impeccable. He's just, and he's low. He's, you know what I'm saying? He's just a hard target already to hit, and he keeps himself so well protected. He's calculated, like you said. Everything he does is with intention, and the intention is to do damage. And he's smart. I like him. I think he's I think he's a great fighter. I think he is the champ. I think it's the fact that we're even here doing this fight again when it should be someone else coming up, and definitely a more interesting. The fact that we even have to redo this thing, I hope it's at least exciting. I hope it's more exciting than the last one because again, until that
It
knee,
should be a
honest,
fun fight. I
yeah,
mean, like Sterling saying in all these interviews, like, "Oh, yeah, I came out too hard in the last one, and I'm going to be more calculated in this one." And okay, great. So then Jan wins by decision. I mean,
yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I also don't like this whole thing. Sterling's been walking around with like a rule book for dummies and doing these like ah, not the show. Well, so who you
yeah, I
got
mean,
then?
he's
Who you
trying
got?
to. Oh, definitely Jan,
All
no
right.
doubt about it. I think, and fighters do this to each other, and it's part of it. He's trying to play mind games with Jan and throw him off his game.
Yeah, but
I
it's
don't
the
think
wrong
it's
mind
gonna
game. Go
work,
go
but
open your mouth and talk smack. But that's what you're making a
yeah, I
joke of
mean,
why
don't
you're the
get me
champ.
wrong. Like we're shitting on Aldo nonstop here. I love Aljo as a fighter. I look forward to him fighting somebody else who's not Peter Yan. He puts on fun fights. He's the Funk Master. He's got the gold chain, and that's all cool. Like I like Aljo, so let's put that out there too. You
Yeah.
know,
Don't
some of
dislike
the
him.
recent stuff not so much, but
Don't dislike him.
but
Just
he's
don't like
he's
what
a
he's
fun
doing.
guy.
Just don't like what he's currently doing. And again, take away the DQ, he'd already lost the fight. And then again, I still hear people saying that he was winning, and I just feel like that's just like you said. You threw the belt on the ground because you didn't want it. Like you know what I'm saying. Like, don't come or start now. You're talking crap about the guy as if you like really were winning the fight. Like be respectful or don't. Like what you know what I'm saying. Like I don't
Right.
know.
Pick a
Justin
side. Be
Justin
Colby
Gaethje.
Covington or don't be Colby
Justin
Covington.
Gaethje, I feel like did it perfectly with the whole Khabib thing. Like he constantly would throw that thing on the ground. Like you know what I'm saying. Like he was like, no, like it really isn't mine. Like I'm not doing this. Whereas like Aljamain has started to recently be like, I am the champ. Like it's like, well, okay, because you were saying that first, yeah,
Technically.
right.
But yeah, so from a betting perspective, with Jan is definitely the pick for me. The minus 500 with him, I'm that wide. I'm a little more hesitant than I am with Kamzat. And so for Jan, that's one where I think you look to get creative in how can you make that line better while still betting Jan to win. So do you want to bet Jan by like ground and pound TKO? Do you want to bet Jan by decision? Um, how do you want to look into that? And so for me, because of how the last fight went, no matter what Sterling says about, oh, I'm going to have a more measured approach this time. I'm not going to throw the kitchen sink in the first round. Um, you get in the cage and then everything can change, even at this high of a level where you're fighting for a championship. And I'm not sure that measured approach lasts super long. It's just not the way he fights. And when you're this far into a career, to change something so hugely fundamental to the way you fight, it just probably isn't going to go well. And so for me, the way I come at this one is probably Jan inside the distance, and I'm trying to pop that up. So that's actually I'm going to bet this when we get off the show. You can get Jan inside the distance at plus 130. And I can very much see Jan getting a finish. I mean, he was possibly on his way to a finish in the third round in the last fight, let alone rounds 4 and 5 that never happened. So I like that line a lot at plus 130.
Um, yeah, that might be a slam. I think that's a slam right there. Um, I like that one a lot. All right, man. Well, we'll see what happens. It's definitely going to be interesting. I will admit, looking at recent photos that were released on Twitter, and again, you don't know if these are real or not, but Sterling does look He does look like he's ready for a fight. So
I mean, he's always shredded. He always looks
we'll
ready to go and shows up ready to go.
we'll give him that one. All right. Last up, the main event. We have Alexander the Great Volkanovski versus Chan Sung Jung, the Korean
AKA,
Zombie. Oh man, I tell you what, this is the fact that this is a weird fight. Not one that I thought we would be seeing, because I thought there's for sure other great fighters in that division, but then you realize, oh wait,
well, so it was
he is
supposed
up
to be
there, you
Max
know? Yeah,
Holloway 3,
but
and Zombie stepped in because Holloway, I believe, had an injury, and
so
they weren't
so we're
able to book the third fight with Holloway.
so we're here now, and I'm excited, and I think it'll be I think it's a cool fight. I think these two, I think their styles are gonna mix to create something. It's gonna mess with each other. I think they don't complement each other very well. I think they definitely conflict with each other, and it's gonna be interesting to see how these two counter each other. But tell me, what are your thoughts on this one?
So my thoughts on this one start with a list, and the list goes Brian Ortega, Max Holloway again, Jose Aldo, Chad Mendez. That is going in reverse order of timeline, the last 5 fights for Volkanovski, and he's won them all. Those are all the elite of the elite of the division, and he has taken care of all of them. I say this over and over because I believe it to be true that Max Holloway was robbed, but we're gonna get Volkanovski Holloway 3 at some point in time when Max is ready to go, and I'm super hyped for that one whenever it happens. Max Holloway is one of my favorite fighters
Love
going
him,
right now.
love him,
Um,
love his vibes. Chill vibes only with
but
Max.
here we are with Volkanovski and the Zombie. Um, Volkanovski, I mean, amazing movement. His feints are incredible. He throws hard. He's got amazing combinations. His accuracy is incredible. He has really great submission defense that he showed, particularly against Ortega when Ortega started giving up on the boxing and trying to submit him. Volkanovski was impressive there. Zombie, you look at, he counter punches incredibly well. That's not to say that he can't also lead the dance. I mean, he's in this title fight for a reason, because he's a very, very, very good fighter. Um, he's got a crazy good chin, which, I mean, going back to what I was saying about Tybura earlier, a crazy good chin also means that you're getting hit and getting hit hard to show that you have that chin. So that's not always necessarily a plus when you talk about a crazy good chin. He throws power shots, and he has submissions of his own too. If it gets on the ground, he's definitely not a fish out of water on the ground. He's a very, very well-rounded fighter. Um, I'm going with Volkanovski. I don't have like the one thing that I can point to say this is why I'm going with Volkanovski, because Zombie is a very, very good fighter and a solid. I mean, we don't need to be testing him anymore. Volkanovski, he's beaten the best of the best. But he is
Twice.
right. Well, the best of the best twice with Holloway, but also Ortega, Aldo, and Mendez. That's three incredibly impressive guys too.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, I mean, I think Volkanovski. I think I don't see him getting the finish. He's not really a finisher. I mean, if you look at those wins recently, he did finish Mendez in the second round, but his last 4 fights have all gone to decision. And granted, you're talking about Aldo, Holloway, Ortega, but even before that, he's not a super finisher in the UFC. Obviously, he was in other promotions on his way, but so are a lot of guys. And then you get into the UFC, and things change when you're fighting a higher level of competition. So he's got, I'm going to count him up real quick. So he had a TKO win in his first fight. He TKO'd Jeremy Kennedy, excuse me, Jamie Kennedy, the comedian, and he TKO'd Mendez. So he's got 10 wins, but 7 of them are by decision. And Zombie is really freaking tough. And so looking at angles, because this one's even more of a wide line than the last two were, we're looking at Volkanovski. The best line you can get on him right now, money line, is minus 700. That's not bettable on the chance that I mean, we have seen Volkanovski get hit, and on the chance that Zombie can land a power shot, minus 700 isn't bettable to me. So because I do see a lot of decisions on his record, and Volkanovski as an absolutely elite level fighter, but not necessarily a finisher first, the line that I'm looking for to bring up is Volkanovski by decision. So Volkanovski by decision, you can take that minus 700 line all the way down to minus 125 is the best line that's out there for by decision. And of course, you're throwing it out the window if he does get a KO or a TKO or something like that. But that seems to me to be the better betting spot for this fight.
Yeah, you can't bet it at minus 700. That's just doesn't work. But in terms of confidently that he is going to win, he wins in every category, man. Significant strikes landed, he's got way more volume. Grappling, he shoots more, he has more takedowns. The only thing he loses in is just slightly, as takedown defense is a little bit worse, but who cares, because he does everything else way better. Volkanovski is a menace in this division. He is going to be there for a long time. This is a no-brainer. Volkanovski's winning this fight. I think you spice things up. I think you might see a knockout here, and I agree with you, because we were saying this earlier. I think the decision is the right move. I think you sprinkle in something with a finish, and I don't know what round it is. I don't know when, but I could see Volkanovski going in and making quick work of the Korean Zombie. Again, I think the Korean Zombie is a great fighter, and it's not the fight we knew we needed, and I think it's going to be a great fight. Every time those two men step in the ring, it's a great fight. They are fan favorites for a reason. But I'm going Volkanovski, and I think he's going to have a finish, and I don't know where, but he's going to have one. I don't know what round. I don't think it's going to be a submission. I think it's going to be a knockout, all the way.
So Volkanovski inside the distance. You're getting the best line I'm seeing here on best fight odds is plus 175. Caesars has inside the distance.
And that's the line right there, my friends. Not
all right.
again,
So we're taking the same side, different props.
Yep. Not again. That's the only other way. So moving along with that, all right. The only other way you bet them is something that I've been talking about with you for a while, and I'm going to ride it hard. Is I'm taking the 3 bigs plus Madsen to bring it down a little bit, and that's I think you're looking at like plus 180, plus 190.
Probably even higher than that, I would think. I mean,
Well,
if you're
they're all
getting
big
Madsen
favorites. It also depends on
but if you're getting Madsen at plus 110, you should pop yourself up
I think
on a
maybe
4-fighter.
Yeah, or like plus 300. So again, it's not going to be like super huge because we're talking big favorites, but that might be. I think that's going to be my lock. That's the only other way besides with Volkanovski picking
Yeah.
either
Well, and to me, I see
a
that
prop bet
as
with him.
anything can happen, and in any of these last three fights on the card, there could be some crazy upset that we don't see coming, and that's what's partly fun about the UFC. But in a way, I look at that as you're giving yourself super high odds on Mark Madsen.
Yep, 100%. And you're giving yourself more rootable odds on the other three gentlemen. So yeah. So all right. Well, that's UFC 273. Volkanovski versus the Korean Zombie. Definitely going to be a amazing. I'm glad. It was sad not having fights last week, so I'm glad that we're back at it. So Andrew, now comes the session where we pick our knockout bets. What is your knockout pick for the week?
Why don't you go first while I flip through my notes and see where I want to go with this one?
Going Chimaev, man. Kazmat. He is.
Okay. Well, you didn't give me a lot of
I
time
know, right?
to think while doing that.
Uh,
No,
no,
I'll take a quick look
it's
here.
Kazmat for sure. I think some other notable ones, like I was just mentioning, Volkanovski. Again, I could also see Jan. I could see Ian Gary. I could see. I don't know who.
Vandera,
I don't know who.
Rosenstrike.
I don't know who in that fight. But Rosenstrike or Tabera, one of them is getting knocked. So that's not.
I mean, Tabera could win by submission in that fight. That's a possibility. Or he could win by decision, by wrestling decision.
I see Anthony Hernandez also possibly getting a knockout.
You're just knocking out everybody on this card.
I know, right? That's what I'm saying. I could see it, but that's why my confident bet,
You're going Khamzat by KO.
That's my. Like I said, I could see the other ones, but I am telling you,
I'm so
it is
so
Chimaev
torn.
By KO.
Does if he is the superhuman guy that we all think he is, does he stand and bang with that power punching and knock him out, or does he submit an elite level jiu-jitsu black belt? Like, either one of them seems incredible, but it almost seems likely that he'll do one or the other. Like, that's what's so crazy about the guy.
No idea which Chimaev's going to show up, but I am rooting for a knockout, and I am.
All right, so let me give you a few where I think they might be knockouts, and then I'll make my pick from among those. I think Vandera's got a good shot for a knockout. This one is a little crazy, a little squirrely, but sprinkle a little tiny bet on it. I could see Piero Rodriguez getting a knockout. I think Rosenstrike is almost maybe the obvious pick. Definitely can see it coming from Ian Gary, possibly. And then, yeah, I mean, you got to give it to all three of the fights at the top of the card as a possibility. I don't think Zombie's getting finished. I'm probably gonna go with. I keep going back to this is the one that feels the best to me. I'm going with Rosenstrike as my knockout bet for this week.
That's a good pick. I'm
going, like, I keep saying, like, it's too easy, it's obvious. That means it's the one I should go with, right? I mean, yeah. My streak is still alive. So episode 4, I picked Ilir Latifi by knockout, and that fight didn't happen. So I guess my streak is still alive, and I'll ride on Rosenstrike.
It's a good pick. Like I said, someone's getting finished in that fight. I really don't know who. Like I said, my pick was for Tabora, but I could see Rosenstrike knocking him out for sure.
That's how he wins if he wins the fight.
Oh yeah. My lottery ticket is gonna be it's a couple underdogs. I'm liking the Daniel Santos, Kay Hansen, Hernandez, which isn't an underdog, but I've thrown him in there. And then I'm also taking Aspen Ladd, throwing that in there too with Mark Madsen. So don't know what that's coming out to. That's definitely my lottery ticket. and again, it's just because I'm waiting to see what the lines do to put it in, but
So
that's
my
my
lottery
that's my lottery
ticket,
ticket.
and this is true lottery ticket fashion. It's got to be Tisha Torres. It's got to be Jared Van Der. Those are fights that are aligned very closely to pick'ems, where I feel like those are solid picks. Um, and same thing with the third one. I'm going to put Pierre Rodriguez in there, and then those are all like pick'em fights, right? So parlaying the three of those together, you get pretty good odds on parlaying those three together. But what makes this really a lottery ticket is Darian Weeks plus 300 being parlayed in there with that.
Yeah, that's gonna boost it for sure. All right. Well, that's um that's our lottery tickets and our knockout bets. Thank you so much for joining us. Best of luck to you on your fights and your bets for this weekend. Best of luck to you at the Masters this weekend. This is a fun weekend. I was telling Andrew this has been a fun week. You had national championship game on Monday for men's basketball, women's basketball, and now you are doing the fights and the Masters this week. So this is a fun weekend in sports. It's been good since football season's been away. We got the draft coming up at the end of the month, so big things coming. Stay on the lookout. Andrew, any final words, buddy?
I'm pumped for the card. This is going to be a good one.
Same here, buddy. Well, as always, thank you for watching. Keep the change.
Keep the change.